The arrival. The sky above the strange world was a pale shade of green, heavy with clouds that never seemed to move. From far away it looked silent and dead, but to her it felt alive. Her name was Aria, a young alien explorer sent on her very first mission. Her people had warned her about this planet. They had told her stories about the dangerous creatures who once lived here, creatures called humans. The landing was rough. Her small shuttle shook as it entered the atmosphere, and the ground came closer faster than she expected. Dust rose high when the ship finally hit the surface. Aria stepped out carefully, her thin silver suit protecting her from the cold air. She looked around, rocks, broken trees, strange ruins that looked like bones. Her heart raced. The stories were clear. Humans eat everything. They even eat other beings. If you see one, run before it is too late. But her mission was simple. Find energy crystals and return. No one had seen humans for a long time. Some said they were extinct. Aria wanted to believe that. She held her scanner and walked slowly across the rough land. Each step made her boots sink into the wet ground. Strange plants bent away from her as if they were alive too. For a while there was only silence, broken by the soft hum of her scanner. Then she froze. Something moved. Her ears twitched, her large, dark eyes scanning the trees ahead. A shadow shifted between the broken trunks. Too tall for an animal, too fast for the wind. Aria's chest tightened. She whispered to herself, "No, it cannot be." The shadow came closer, slowly, calmly, and then she saw him. A human. He stood taller than her, his body covered in torn clothing. His face was rough with hair growing around his jaw. His eyes locked on hers, sharp, strange, and filled with something she could not read. In his hand he held a sharp tool. Metal. Shining in the weak light, Aria's heart nearly stopped. The old warnings echoed inside her head. "They eat everything." She stumbled back, ready to run, but her legs felt heavy. The human took a step forward. Not fast, not slow, just steady. His tool gleamed again as he raised it. Her breath caught. This was the end. She was sure of it. The human bent down. With the sharp tool he cut open something on the ground. A large fruit. Red and rough on the outside, soft and bright inside. Juice dripped down as he carved it cleanly in two. He lifted one half and looked at her again. Then he did something she never expected. He held the fruit out, not as an attack, not as a threat, but as an offering. Aria blinked, unable to move. What was this, a trap? A trick before he attacked? She shook her head and stepped back again. Her people's stories rang in her ears. No human was kind. They were predators. Monsters. But the human only tilted his head, as if asking her to take it. Then slowly he bit into his own half. Juice ran down his chin. He chewed, he swallowed. And he smiled. Aria's mind spun. He was not eating her. He was eating food. Just food. The fear inside her battled with her curiosity. Was this really the monster her people had warned her about? Or was there something different here? The human wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and looked at her again. His smile remained. For some reason, it made her feel even more nervous. A sound broke the moment. A low growl from the forest. The ground shook lightly as something large moved between the trees. The human's face changed at once. His smile was gone, replaced by sharp focus. He stood tall, gripping his metal tool tighter. Aria froze again, torn between running and staying. The growl grew louder. The forest shifted. She realized then that the danger was not him. Something else was coming. The human looked at her one last time. His lips moved, but she could not understand his words. Yet his meaning was clear: stay close, or you will die. Aria's heart pounded in her chest. This was not what she had expected. She thought her first meeting with a human would end with her being eaten, but now something worse was about to happen. The shadows grew larger. The forest roared, and for the first time she wondered if this human, this supposed monster, was the only thing standing between her and death. The first misunderstanding, the night grew heavy around her. Aria crouched near the wreck of her shuttle, her wide eyes fixed on the forest where the human had disappeared. The growls she had heard earlier still echoed in her memory. She had expected him to attack her, to tear her apart as the old stories said. Instead, he had fought the darkness, faced it with his sharp tool, and vanished into the trees. And she was still alive. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Confusion filled her mind like a storm. Why had he spared her? Why had he given her food instead of taking her as food? None of it made sense. The humans were supposed to be predators. Her elders had spoken of their hunger, their endless greed. They do not eat like us, they had warned. They consume worlds, yet she had seen something different. He had eaten fruit, sweet, simple fruit, and the way he had smiled at her, it had not been the smile of a monster. Still, fear remained. When the pale sun rose the next morning, Arya followed the faint marks he had left behind. Footprints deep in the soil, larger than hers. She told herself she was only observing, only learning about him for her report. But inside she knew it was curiosity that pulled her forward. The trail led to a small clearing. There he was, the human. He knelt by a fire, the bright flames dancing upward. Arya had seen fire before, but never like this. He controlled it, fed it with wood, protected it like it was alive. Over the fire he held pieces of meat skewered on a branch. The smell drifted through the air, strange, sharp, yet somehow pleasant. Arya's nose twitched. She remembered the warnings. Meat, he will eat flesh. Her hands curled into fists. Perhaps he will eat mine next. But the human only sat calmly, turning the meat slowly, waiting until it browned. Then, just as before, he looked around and noticed her. Their eyes met. Arya's body froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but her legs would not move. The human tilted his head, almost like he was amused. He lifted the cooked meat, waved it gently, and spoke in a low voice she could not understand. Then he offered it to her. Her chest tightened. No, this is the trap. This is how he begins. First he feeds, then he hunts. She stepped back, shaking her head. I will not fall for it, she whispered. The human frowned slightly, but did not chase her. Instead, he bit into the meat himself. Juice ran down his chin. He chewed, swallowed, and smiled again, as if trying to show her it was safe. Arya blinked. He was not eating her. He was eating animals. Still dangerous, yes, but not her. Her mind raced. Could it be that the stories were wrong? Or was this only the beginning, the moment before he revealed his true nature? The human set the food down and began to gather more wood. Arya watched from behind the trees. She saw how he sharpened his tools, how he stacked fruit and meat, how he carefully kept the fire alive. It struck her then. This was not random hunger. This was ritual, order, a strange kind of art. She whispered to herself. He does not eat like a beast. He eats like he is building something. The thought unsettled her even more. Hours passed. Arya followed him from a distance as he moved through the forest. He hunted small creatures with traps he had built himself. He picked fruit and roots, tested them, and carried them back to his fire. He never rushed. Every action was careful, thoughtful. The sun began to sink again. Arya found herself sitting on a branch above his camp, watching silently. The flames below painted his face in red light. He was tired but calm. He cut fruit into pieces, placed them in a bowl made of wood, and once again looked in her direction. She stiffened. He knew she was there. Instead of anger, he gave a small wave. A simple gesture. A greeting. Arya's chest felt strange. A war was inside her heart. Half of her screamed, "He is dangerous." "He will destroy you," the other half whispered. "He could have killed you already. Why hasn't he?" She clenched her teeth, whispering to herself. "What are you, human?" The flames cracked, sparks rising into the night. The human leaned back, closing his eyes for a moment. His tool rested beside him, but his hands were empty now. He did not guard himself against her. He trusted she would not strike. It made her feel uneasy, almost guilty. A sudden sound broke the night, a distant howl, sharp and wild. Arya froze again. The forest was alive with danger. The human opened his eyes, listening. He picked up his tool and stood tall, his body tense, ready. Arya gripped the branch tightly. The danger was not him. The danger was out there, moving closer. For the second time, she realized a strange truth. The human was not hunting her. The human's strange habits. The forest was never quiet for long. Strange creatures cried in the distance. Leaves rattled like whispers, and the ground sometimes trembled without reason. Yet Arya's attention was no longer on the world around her. It was on the human. Days passed, and she followed him in secret. Each time she told herself she was only observing for her mission. But deep inside, she knew the truth. She wanted to understand him. He was nothing like the monsters from the old stories. The stories had painted humans as savage beasts, loud, wild, always hungry. But this one was different. He moved with patience, with purpose. He created order where there was none, and his habits were unlike anything Arya had ever seen. One morning she watched from the trees as he woke up. His shelter was nothing but broken metal sheets, branches, and cloth stitched together, yet he cared for it, fixing each corner, patching holes, tightening the ropes. To him, this place was not just a shelter. It was home. After that, he crouched near the fire pit and blew softly. Ash stirred, and soon flames returned. Fire alive again! Arya tilted her head. No creature she knew could command fire so easily. For her people, fire was dangerous, forbidden. But to him, it was as natural as breathing. Then came the strangest habit of all. He spoke. Not to her. Not to anyone. He spoke to himself. His words were low and rough, a language Arya's translator could not fully catch. But the tone was clear. Sometimes soft, like he was remembering someone. Sometimes sharp, like he was arguing with a ghost. And sometimes, when he looked at the sky, his voice grew heavy, as if he carried the weight of an entire world. Arya's chest tightened. Was he alone here? Did he speak to shadows because there was no one else left? She wanted to step out to ask, but fear held her back. Instead, she kept watching. When he hunted, he did not chase wildly. He built traps. Nets, ropes, sharpened sticks hidden under leaves. Clever designs she could barely understand. And when he caught his prey, he did not kill quickly. He whispered something first, short, soft words before striking. Arya shivered. Was it a ritual, a prayer? But it was what he did after that shocked her most. He cooked. She had never seen such a thing. He took raw meat, cleaned it, spiced it with crushed leaves, then roasted it carefully over the fire. The smell spread far, sharp, but also strangely warm. He never ate in silence. He always sat, always watched the fire, and sometimes lifted his food like he was sharing it with unseen companions. It was not feeding. It was ceremony. Arya's stomach turned with confusion. Her people ate only for survival. No fire, no ritual, no taste. Food was energy, nothing more. But this human made it more. Why? The longer she watched, the deeper her questions grew. One afternoon, she climbed higher into the trees to see him better. He was sitting by a stream, his tool in hand. He wasn't hunting, not this time. He was carving. The metal blade slid across wood, shaving it down, shaping it. Piece by piece, something formed in his hands. At first, she thought it was just a weapon. But when he held it up, she gasped. It was not a weapon at all. It was a figure, a small carving of some creature with wings. He placed it gently on a stone beside him, next to several others. Tiny shapes, all carved with care. Arya's eyes widened. Why would a predator waste time making useless shapes? Why would he sit for hours to build things that had no purpose? Unless they did have a purpose, not survival, not hunting. Something else. Her people had no word for it, but her heart whispered the answer. Art. The realization shook her. He was not just surviving. He was remembering, creating, telling a story without words. That night she could not sleep. She sat high in the trees, her mind racing. Each strange habit, each ritual, each carving added to the mystery. Humans were supposed to consume everything. Yet this one gave life to fire, to memory, to meaning. She whispered to herself. He does not eat to survive. He eats to feel. The thought frightened her more than the growls in the forest, because if it was true, then her people had been wrong all along. The next morning, Arya dared to creep closer. The human was cooking again, fruit and roots this time. He cut them into slices, roasted them, then set a piece on a flat stone across the fire. For her heart pounded. She stared at the offering. For a long time she did not move. Finally, she stepped out of the shadows. Her legs shook as she walked forward. She did not touch the food, but she stood where he could see her. The human smiled. Not the smile of a beast, but something warmer, softer. Arya felt something strange inside her chest. She still did not trust him. But she could no longer deny it. This human was not what she expected, and his strange habits might be the most dangerous thing of all. He was protecting her. An unexpected rescue. The forest never slept. At night it breathed louder, darker, and hungrier. Arya sat in the branches of a crooked tree, her eyes fixed on the small fire below where the human rested. She had watched him for days now, But she still kept her distance. Curiosity pulled her closer. Fear pushed her away. She hugged her knees to her chest. He is strange, she thought. Strange, but not like a monster. Her people's voices still echoed in her head. Humans eat everything. But each day proved the opposite. He hunted, yes, but only small beasts. He ate fruit, roots, and meat. But never once had he tried to harm her. Instead, he had offered her food, smiled at her, protected her with fire, and yet her instincts never fully relaxed. The forest roared suddenly. A heavy thud shook the ground. Leaves fell from above, rustling like whispers of warning. Arya stiffened, every nerve in her body awake. The human sat up at once. His hand gripped the metal tool lying beside him. He looked toward the trees, his face hard and sharp. The firelight flickered across his eyes, and Arya saw it. He was ready to fight. The sound came again. A growl, deeper than thunder. Then the creature stepped out. It was massive, its body covered in scales and fur, a twisted shape of claw and fang. Its eyes glowed yellow, and its breath steamed in the cold night. Arya felt her blood turn cold. She knew this predator. Her people called it a devourer. Even her strongest hunters avoided them. The devourer lowered its head, sniffing the ground. Then its eyes landed on her. Arya's throat closed. Her muscles locked. She wanted to run, but fear chained her in place. The beast roared, a sound that split the air like breaking stone. Birds scattered. Branches snapped. Arya's heart pounded so loud she thought it would burst. The devourer lunged, but before it reached her tree, a voice shouted, "Hey!" The human. He stood by the fire, his tool in one hand, a burning branch in the other. He swung the fire high, sparks bursting into the night. His voice was rough and loud, but it carried power. The devourer turned. Its yellow eyes narrowed. The human did not back down. He stepped forward instead, slamming the burning branch against the ground. Fire cracked, smoke rose, and for a moment the beast hesitated. Arya gripped the tree trunk, her body trembling. Why is he doing this? Why is he standing between me and death? The devourer snarled and rushed at him. The human threw the burning branch into its face. Flames burst across its muzzle. The beast howled, shaking its head. Before it recovered, the human struck with his tool, slicing deep into its leg. Blood sprayed. The ground shook with its fury. The beast swung its massive claw. The human jumped back, but the strike grazed his arm. He stumbled, pain flashing across his face, yet he did not fall. He raised his tool again, his eyes locked on the creature like steel. Arya's chest burned. She wanted to scream, to warn him, to help, but her body refused. All she could do was watch as predator fought predator. The devourer lunged once more. This time the human dodged and drove his blade into its side. The beast roared, twisting wildly, knocking him to the ground. Its jaws opened wide, dripping with saliva, ready to crush him. Arya's scream tore from her throat. "No!" She didn't know why she shouted. Instinct. Fear. Something deeper. The sound distracted the beast for a heartbeat. That was enough. The human grabbed a burning log from the fire and shoved it straight into the devourer's mouth. Flames burst, smoke filled the air, and the creature shrieked in agony. Staggering, it thrashed, clawed the ground, then finally turned and crashed back into the forest. Disappearing into the dark, silence returned, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the human's heavy breathing. Arya's body shook as she climbed down from the tree. Her legs wobbled, but she forced herself closer. The human was on one knee, blood dripping from his arm, sweat shining on his forehead. He looked exhausted yet alive, and he had saved her. Again. She stopped a few steps away, her voice trembling. Why would you do that?" He looked at her. His chest still heaved from the fight, but his eyes were steady. He spoke words she could not understand, but his tone was clear. "Because I could." Arya's throat tightened. She stared at the wound on his arm, at the blood soaking his sleeve. He had risked his life, not for himself, but for her. Her people had been wrong. This human was not a mindless predator. He was something else. Something far more dangerous, because a predator kills only to feed. But he chose to protect. And that was something she could not explain. The firelight flickered between them, shadows dancing across the ground. Arya felt her fear shift into something new, something heavier, sharper, trust, and that perhaps was the most dangerous thing of all. The fire still burned low, its glow painting the human's face in flickering red. Arya sat across from him, her body tense, her mind torn. The devourer's roar still echoed in her ears, and the sight of his blood would not leave her. He should have let her die. That would have been simple. That would have matched the stories she had been told, but he hadn't. He had fought. He had bled. He had saved her life. And now she could no longer pretend he was just a monster. The human tore a strip of cloth from his torn shirt and wrapped it around his wounded arm. His hands were steady, though his face tightened with pain. He did not complain, did not cry. He simply fixed himself as if it were routine. Arya watched in silence, hidden in the shadow of her thoughts. Part of her still whispered, "He is dangerous. He is human." But another voice, new, fragile, but growing, said, "He is more than that." When he finished, he noticed her watching. For a long moment, their eyes held. Then slowly, he reached into his bag and pulled out fruit. He cut it with his blade, placed a piece on a flat stone, and pushed it across the ground toward her. Her stomach twisted. Hunger pulled her forward, but fear chained her back. The human gave a small smile and took a bite from his own half, chewing calmly. He pointed to hers, then to himself, then back again. Arya understood. Share. Her fingers trembled as she reached forward. She picked up the fruit and lifted it to her lips. Her heart hammered. Was this another trick? A step toward something darker? She took a bite. Sweetness filled her mouth, soft and strange. It melted on her tongue in a way her people's food never had. For a moment, she forgot her fear. The human grinned as if proud of her. He nodded once, then returned to eating. Arya blinked at him. This simple act, this sharing, felt like something larger. She had not just taken food. She had taken trust. That night, she did not retreat to the trees. She stayed near the fire, though still at a distance. The human said nothing, but his presence was steady, strong. She listened as he hummed softly, a sound without words, but filled with meaning. It was the first time in her life she felt safe. The next day, Arya followed him more closely. No longer hiding, no longer afraid of being seen. He noticed her, of course, but did not chase her away. Instead, he made space, cutting extra fruit, gathering extra roots, even pouring water into a second wooden bowl he had carved. At first, she refused to touch any of it. Old fear clung tight to her. But little by little, hunger and curiosity pushed her forward. By the third day, she ate beside him. By the fourth, she drank from his bowl. By the fifth, she sat at his fire without flinching. It was not language that built their bond, but action. A look, a gesture, a shared meal. He showed her how to sharpen sticks for defense. She showed him how to identify plants that were safe to eat. He taught her to light fire by striking stones together. She taught him to listen for tremors in the ground that warned of approaching beasts. Together, they began to move as if they were one. Yet in the quiet moments, Arya's fear still whispered. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, she stared at him while he carved another wooden figure. This one looked like a bird. Small, delicate wings spread as if it were flying. He placed it on a rock beside the others. She finally spoke, her translator device buzzing softly. "Why do you make them?" The human looked up. His eyes softened. He said words she could not fully catch, but the device translated a piece. To remember. Remember what? She wondered. People he had lost? A world that was gone? Her chest tightened. Her people had said humans only consumed, only destroyed. But here he was, creating memory out of wood, fire, and silence. That night, as she lay near the fire, she whispered to herself, "He does not eat to survive. He eats to share. He does not build to conquer. He builds to remember." For the first time, she felt shame for believing the old warnings. The bond grew stronger after that. When danger came, they stood together. When food was scarce, they split what little they had. When silence was heavy, they filled it with small gestures. Him tapping the fire with a stick, her tilting her head in question. Both of them understanding without words. Arya had expected a predator. Instead, she had found something far more dangerous. A friend. And friendship, she realized, was more terrifying than fear. Because fear kept her safe, but friendship pulled her closer. Closer to a human, closer to the truth. Secrets revealed, the days blurred together. Arya no longer hid in the trees. She walked beside the human now, her silver suit dusty, her translator device hanging at her side like a forgotten tool. They had built a rhythm without words. Hunt, cook, eat, watch, rest. But curiosity pressed heavier on her chest with each passing day. She had seen his habits. His strange rituals with food, his carvings of creatures that no longer lived. His careful fire, his quiet voice speaking to the empty air. All of it pointed to something deeper, something she did not understand, and she needed to know. One evening, as the sun sank low and shadows stretched across the forest floor, Arya sat across from him by the fire. The human was wrapping his blade again, rubbing the metal with oil he had made from crushed seeds. His eyes glowed in the firelight, steady and calm. Arya touched the translator device on her wrist. For days she had avoided speaking. Fear of breaking the fragile bond kept her silent, but now, the questions burned too hot, she activated it. The soft hum filled the air. "Human," she said, her voice trembling. Why did you not eat me?" The words echoed strange and heavy in the quiet night. The human froze. His eyes lifted, meeting hers across the flames. For a long moment he said nothing. Then slowly he set the blade aside and leaned back. He spoke, rough words falling from his lips. The device stuttered, struggled, then pieced together fragments. "Eat you? Oh, I don't eat friends. Arya's breath caught. The word felt strange, dangerous, yet warm. Her people did not have friends. They had tribes, duty, survival. But not this. Not something chosen, she whispered. "Friend." "Me?" He nodded once. No hesitation. Her heart beat fast. She wanted to deny it, to laugh at the foolishness of the idea. But the truth pressed against her chest. She wanted it to be real. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why protect me? Why fight for me?" The human's face shifted. His eyes lowered to the fire and his voice grew quieter. The translator translated slowly. "Because I know what it means to be alone." Arya's eyes widened. Alone. That word she understood. It was not just silence, not just emptiness. It was a wound that never healed. She leaned forward. "Alone, where are your people?" His jaw tightened. His gaze flicked upward toward the dark sky. He whispered words too fast for the translator to catch. But the pain on his face told her enough. They were gone. Memories clawed at him, ghosts pressing behind his eyes. He carried them in every carving, in every song hummed to the fire, in every careful ritual. Arya's chest ached. For the first time, she saw not a predator, but something more fragile than she had imagined. She whispered, "You, our last?" His silence was answer enough. The fire crackled. The forest shifted. For a long while, neither spoke. But the weight between them was no longer fear. It was something heavier. Understanding. The next morning, Arya could not stop watching him. Every movement, every habit now looked different. When he carved a bird, she wondered if it reminded him of someone. When he lit the fire, she wondered if it was for warmth or for memory. He was human. Alone. And yet he had chosen not to consume, not to destroy. He had chosen to share. Later, as they walked along the river, Arya found the courage to ask again. "Human. Your name?" He looked at her, surprised. Then he tapped his chest. "Elias." The device translated it without change. "Elias," Arya repeated it slowly. "E-li-as." The sound was heavy on her tongue, but it felt important. A name, not a predator, not a monster, a person. Elias smiled faintly as if her saying it mattered, and in that moment, Arya felt something dangerous. The line between alien and enemy began to vanish. That night, under a sky crowded with strange stars, Elias handed her another carving. This one was different. It was not a bird, not an animal. It was shaped like her, small, rough, but unmistakable. Her wide eyes, her long head crest, her thin frame. Arya stared at it in shock. "You made me?" she asked. Elias nodded. His voice came soft. "So I don't forget." Her throat closed. For a moment she could not breathe. She had expected humans to consume, to erase. But here he was, carving her into memory, refusing to let her vanish. Arya held the figure tight, her eyes burning with feelings she did not want to name. Her people had lied. Humans did not eat everything. They remembered everything. They carried memory like fire, passing it on, keeping it alive, and maybe that was what made them dangerous. Not their hunger, but their heart. The twist ending. The wind carried a low hum through the forest, a sound Arya had never heard before. At first she thought it was thunder, but when she lifted her head to the sky, her heart stopped. A ship. Its silver body cut through the clouds, glowing faintly in the pale green light. It was not human. It was hers. Her people had come. Arya's chest tightened. For weeks she had lived here with Elias, shared food, shared fire, shared silence that felt louder than words. She had seen him bleed for her, fight for her, carve her face into wood so she would never be forgotten. And now, the choice she had feared had arrived. Elias followed her gaze. His jaw tightened as he saw the ship. He knew. His eyes darkened, but he did not move. He simply sat by the fire, sharpening his blade as though he had always known this day would come. The ship landed hard, not far from the river. Dust rose in heavy waves. The trees bent under the force. Arya's ears rang as the hatch opened. Figures stepped out, tall, armored, carrying the weapons of her people, her kin. Her heart should have lifted, but instead it sank. The commander's voice boomed. "Arya, step away from the human!" She flinched. They had seen him. They knew. The soldiers spread out, weapons raised. Their eyes burned with fear and hatred. The stories of humans had shaped them all. Predators, destroyers, consumers of everything. Elias stood slowly, his blade in his hand, his body straight. He did not speak. He did not run. He simply faced them, calm, proud, ready. The commander sneered. "We told you, child. Humans eat everything. They destroy all they touch. Look at him, still breathing, still dangerous. Step aside. We will end this." Arya's throat closed. She looked at Elias, his eyes met hers. Not begging, not demanding, simply steady. She remembered his words. "I don't eat friends." She remembered the carvings, the fire, the way he fought the devourer for her. She remembered his name, Elias. Her people had lied. Humans did not consume the way they believed. They consumed fear, loneliness, emptiness, and replaced it with memory, with meaning, with hope. Arya stepped forward, blocking their aim. The commander shouted, "What are you doing?" She raised her chin. "You are wrong. Humans are not what you told us." Gasps rippled through the soldiers. The commander's eyes narrowed. "You dare protect it?" Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. "Yes, he is not monster. He is Elias. He saved me. He shared with me. He remembered me." The commander scoffed. "Naive child. That is how they lure you. Soon he will eat you, just as his kind always has." Elias finally spoke, his voice rough but strong. The translator caught the words. "If I wanted her dead, she would be dead. But she is my friend. I do not eat friends." Silence fell. Even the soldiers hesitated. His voice was not the growl of a beast. It was the voice of someone tired, someone wounded, but someone who still stood with dignity. Arya turned to her people, her eyes burning. "Yes, humans consume, but not flesh, not life. They consume pain. They consume fear, and they give back something greater. They give back hope." The words hung in the air. Heavy. Dangerous. True. The commander's face twisted. "Enough, step aside." Arya shook her head. For the first time, she did not obey. She stood tall, fire burning in her chest. "If you want to kill him, you must kill me first." The soldiers shifted uneasily. None moved. None fired. The commander growled, lowering his weapon in frustration. He stared at Arya, then at Elias, then back again. Finally, he turned sharply. "We leave now. This planet is cursed. Let it rot with its monsters." The soldiers obeyed. One by one, they marched back into the ship. The hatch closed. The engines roared, and soon the sky swallowed them again. Silence returned. Only the crackle of the fire remained. Arya stood trembling, her body weak, her heart racing. She turned slowly. Elias was still there, still calm, still watching her. For the first time, she smiled. "They are gone." Elias gave a small nod. He dropped his blade and sat back by the fire. After a moment, Arya joined him. They ate together in silence, fruit and roots split between them. The night was heavy, but no longer cold. Arya looked at the wooden figure he had carved of her. She held it close, whispering softly, "Humans do not eat friends." Elias smiled faintly at the words, though he said nothing, and under the strange green sky with the fire burning bright, Arya realized the truth. Her people had come to save her, but it was the human who had truly saved her all along.